This video is brought to you in part by my sponsors. Card Conduit is the easiest way to sell your unused Magic cards. Whether your collection is sorted or not, there's an option for everyone. With a payout averaging 19% higher than just using one buy list, you can rest assured you get the best bang for your buck. And you can get further savings of 10% on your service fees by using my affiliate link down below or the promo code MTGMudsta. 401 Games is Canada's one-stop shop for trading cards, board games, and hobby supplies. With a huge selection of cards and sealed product, first-time buyers can save 5% off their first order by using the code MTGMudsta, and returning shoppers can also use the code GOBLINS5 to save 5% on orders of singles. And Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest decks. You can use the promo code MUDSTA or the affiliate link down below to save 5% on your next order.
Are you going to do the intro?
Oh yeah, I gotta do the intro. You host this.
I know, this is my channel. So we're doing something different. We're doing in front of the camera stuff. We're going to describe our decks as opposed to just giving you the generic opening hand so you get a better idea of what we're doing. Arjo, start us off.
I'm playing Belbe Corrupted Observer. This is a deck that tries to get Belbe out, immediately deal 1 damage to each of our opponents, and then use that 6 mana towards artifacts, Eldrazi, activated abilities, and other mean stuff. It also accelerates the entire table to ensure fast and fun games.
I mean, fun is
Fun for me.
I'm playing Coram. I'm going to dump big fat creatures in my graveyard and smash face, and hopefully he'll get trampled at some point so it'll actually matter. Max.
We're trying to go fast, so we're playing Cruelclaw to kill people fast.
Matsu, we're going to playing Rilsa, and we're going to take the initiative and then hopefully kill everyone with infect.
Do it.
Hopefully.
Arjo wins the die roll and starts us off. He draws, plays a swamp, and casts Pulse Tracker. My turn just has me playing a mountain. Max also has Mountain, but shows me up by casting a Soul Ring, and then taps a Soul Ring for a Rakdos Signet. Metcha just plays an island. Arja's turn has him playing a tapped Golgari land, and he then swings the tracker at Max, which has each opponent losing 1, and Max then gets hit for 1, and Arja passes. I play an Exotic Orchard, paying 2 for a Nature's Lore, and pass while searching for a forest card. Max is a Canyon Slough, which comes in tapped, but is still able to cast Cruelclaw on turn 2 thanks to his mana rocks, and passes once his commander resolves. Metcha draws, plays a swamp, and casts a Cold Steel Heart, naming blue as it comes in. Arja's got a Conduit Pylons for turn, surveilling 1 and bidding it. He then casts Belbe, and he moves to combat. He swings the Pulse Tracker at me, which has each opponent losing 1, and I then take the hit for 1. This triggers Belbe in his second main phase, gaining Arja's 6 colorless mana. He uses it for a Dreamstone Hedron, and then taps the Hedron for a Burnished Heart, passing after that. I draw, but have no land for turn, and have to cycle a Greater Tanuki, going to find a basic to put the field tapped as I pass to Max. Max untaps and draws. He plays a Luxury Suite, and then casts an Ancient Cellar Spawn. Max then goes to combat, and swings Cruelclaw at me. He connects, and exiles off the top until he hits Key to the City, which he casts by discarding a Rogue's Passage. This also triggers the Cellar Spawn, which has Max dealing 2 to Arja. Mathieu pays 2 mana for a Wishclaw Talisman in his main phase, which comes in with 3 counters. He then plays a Dimir Aqueduct, bouncing his swamp back to his hand, and passing Arja. Arja's got a swamp for turn, and pays 2 for a Mind Stone. He then pays 1 green for a Nature's Claim, blowing up the Wishclaw Talisman and gaining Mat 4 life. Going to combat, the tracker goes at Mathieu, triggering on attack to have each opponent lose 1. In Arja's second main phase, he gains his 6 colorless, and uses it to cast an Eldrazi Ravager, and passes. I play a tapped Rausch's Theater, surveilling 1 and putting to graveyard Ziatora. I then cast a Vile Entomber, and go to my library to put a card to my graveyard. It's Anger, and I then move to combat, and swing the Entomber at Mat for 2. My second main phase then has me gaining 2 colorless from Belbe, which I use to cast a Swiftfoot Boots, and pass to Max. Max plays a Swamp for turn, and then swings Cruelclaw at me again, and the Cellar Spawn goes at Mathieu. With Cruelclaw connecting, Max gets his trigger, revealing until he hits an Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. He casts it by discarding a card, and gets to deal 10 damage to Arja with the Cellar Spawn trigger. He also gets to exile the Eldrazi Ravager and my Swiftfoot boots from casting Ulamog. In his second main phase, Max then casts a Cruelclaw's Heist and targets Arja. He also pays the gift cost to Mathieu, and he decides to exile Arja's Steel Hellkite from his hand, and then pass his turn. Mathieu plays the swamp that he bounced last turn, and now has enough for Rilsa Rael. She comes in, gaining him the initiative, and he goes to find a basic to put to hand. He then passes, and during his end step, Arja activates the Burnished Heart to sacrifice it to go and find 2 basics. Arja's turn has him swinging the Pulse Tracker at me, triggering on attack to deal 1 to his opponents, and then deals 1 to me in combat damage. Once more he gains 6 colorless, and in his second main phase, casts Zendikar Resurgent. He then cracks the Dreamstone Hedron, drawing 3 cards. One of those is a Concordant Crossroads, as he says, to even the playing field, and he then plays a Forest for turn. He then casts an Everflowing Chalice, multi-kick twice, and passes to me. I draw and look through my graveyard before casting Coram. I then go to combat and swing Coram at Arja. Everyone mills their top card, and Arja then moves to block with Belbe. In my second main phase, I then play Yavimaya, which I'd milled for my land for turn, and I pass to Max. Max taps a good amount of mana in his main phase, casting the Steel Hellkite from exile, and then goes to combat. He swings the Cruelclaw at Mathieu, the Steel Hellkite at Arja, and Ulamog goes at me. On attack, I exile my top 20 cards to Ulamog's on attack trigger, and then block with the Violent Tumor. Mathieu and Arja also take their hits, with Max gaining the initiative and goes to find a basic. He also gets to resolve Cruelclaw's trigger, revealing until he hits Shouldered Whispering One, casting it and discarding a card instead of paying the mana cost. This triggers the Cellar Spawn, and he deals the damage to Mathieu. Max isn't done though, activating the Steel Hellkite's second ability and blowing up all permanents that cost 1 mana value on Arja's side. Once that's all done, he passes turn. Mathieu's upkeep has him responding to the Shoulder trigger by casting Blur on Rilsa Rael, bouncing her and retaking the initiative, plus drawing him a card. He then resolves the Shoulder trigger, sacrificing Rilsa Rael, and draws for turn. He plays a Swamp, and then pays 1 black for a Scheming Symmetry and targets me. He goes to find a card to put on top, and I do as well. Mathieu then casts a Sword Coast Sailor, and passes the turn after that. Arja recasts Belbe in his main phase, drawing from the Zendikar Resurgent trigger. He then plays a Swamp, and casts an Oblivion Sower, and targets Max. I'm clearly the better target, but I convince him not to, saying he'll want me to resolve the card I just tutored for. This is Arja exiling Max's top 4, and getting 2 swamps from Max's exiled pile. Arja then ships the turn after that. I draw and play a tapped Necroblossom Snarl for turn, and go to combat, swinging Coram at Max. We all mill our top card, and Max blocks with a Cellar Spawn. My second main phase then has me casting a Tortured Existence from my graveyard, and once that resolves, I play Toxic Deluge, dumping 10 life into it to wipe the board. It resolves, and I then cast Persist to bring back the Violent Tumor. This has me go into my library, and I put to graveyard Brawn, and pass after that. Max begins to rebuild on his turn, casting Inti, Sensual of the Sun, and follows up with a Victimize. With the Victimize on the stack, he targets Ulamog and Shouldered, but Arja prevents it by resolving by taking out Inti with the Dismember. Max then passes turn. Mathieu's upkeep has him goading the Violent Tumor as he moves through the Undercity, and he then draws for turn. He plays an island, and casts a Passageway Seer, taking the initiative again. He draws once more as he moves further into the Undercity, and then moves to his end step, adding a +1/+1 counter onto the Seer. Arja plays an Evolving Wilds, and cracks it to thin his deck. He then recasts Belbe, drawing a card again, and passes after that. My turn has me bringing back Coram, and I immediately swing him at Max, along with the Goaded Entomber as well. We mill our top cards, and Max then takes 10 from Coram because Ulamog is the biggest creature in the yards. I then play a Smoldering Marsh from my graveyard, and pass. Max casts a Noxious Gearhulk in his main phase, which Mathieu counters with a Bar the 8, not much for fear of the creature, but more so to finish the Undercity. This has him revealing his top 10, and he keeps Skitherix, which has hexproof until his next turn, and 3 +1/+1 counters. Unfortunately, that's it for Max, and he passes turn. Mathieu untaps, and on his upkeep, restarts the Undercity, going to find a basic to hand. He then draws and plays an island. He recasts Rilsa Rael, moving to the second room, and adds 2+1/+1 counters onto his commander. Moving to combat, he swings Skitherix at me, and pumps it with Rilsa Rael's trigger. This is easily more than 10 poison counters, and I get knocked out. Metju then passes, and during his end step, adds another counter onto his Seer. Arja also gets in on this, and uses an Abrupt Decay to destroy his Belbe, so at least he can recast her on his turn and draw another card. Arja untaps and draws. He recasts Belbe, drawing again, and follows up with an Endbringer, drawing once more. With not much action going on, he passes turn. Max goes through his graveyard and then plays out Animate Dead and targets his Runescar Demon. It resolves, and the demon comes back, allowing Max to tutor for a card to hand. He then casts Saw in half and targets his Runescar Demon, destroying it and making 2 smaller ones. This lets him tutor for 2 more cards to hand. He then counts up the creatures on the board and casts a very reduced costing Blasphemous Act, wiping the board. Metju continues through the dungeon on his upkeep, and Max falls into his trap, losing 5. Rilsa Rael then comes in, and Metju moves further into the Undercity, drawing a card again. He passes after that. Arja draws and hopes for a creature. It's not, and he casts Cultivate to try and get 2 more lands out of his deck. He then recasts Belbe for 10 mana just to draw a card, and passes after that. Max's turn has him drawing and casting Reanimate, bringing back Shouldered and losing 7 life. He then casts Cruelclaw and passes to Matt. Metju's upkeep has him sacrificing Rilsa Rael to the Shoulder trigger, and he then resolves the initiative, and he moves to the final room of the Undercity. This has him revealing his top 10. He keeps Rankle with it, giving it 3+1/+1 counters, and then draws for turn. He then plays an island in his main phase, and casts a Yuan Ti Millicent, which he immediately sacrifices to Diabolic Intent, tutoring for a card. Metju then casts a Vraska's Fall, and each opponent sacrifices a creature and gains a poison counter. He then swings Rankle at Max. Rankle connects, with Metju picking the most to have each player discard a card and sacrifice a creature. With the board basically wiped again, he passes turn. Arja once more casts Belbe, drawing a card. He casts Okaiba Reckoner Raid, with each opponent losing 1 life. Arja then gets his colorless in his second main phase, but has nothing to do with it, and just passes. Max casts a Skyline Despot in his main phase, gaining the Monarchy as it comes in. He then passes through his phases, drawing at the end of turn from being the Monarch. Metju goes to find a basic on his upkeep as he restarts the Undercity, and draws for turn. He casts Into the Story for the reduced cost. He then pays 2 for a Ghostly Pilferer, and passes. Arja's turn has him drawing, and then adding a lore counter onto his Saga in his main phase, having each opponent lose 1 life again. He then casts a Sword of the Animist, and equips it onto Belbe, and then swings Belbe at Max. He goes to find a basic, and Max blocks to kill Belbe. Arja's second main phase then has him recasting Belbe for like 12 mana, drawing him a card again from Zendikar Resurgent, and Metju gets to draw a card from Ghostly Pilferer. Arja still has enough mana to re-equip Belbe with the sword, and he passes after that. Max makes a dragon token on his upkeep from the Skyline Despot because he's still the Monarch. He then draws, and plays a Rotten Mouth Viper, which has each opponent discarding a card. Max then goes to combat and swings the Despot at Matt. Before damage, Metju exiles a card from his hand to help cast March of the Swirling Mist, phasing out all of Max's creatures. In his second main phase, Max then casts Feed the Swarm, taking out the Ghostly Pilferer, and losing 2 life, which is actually half of his life at this point. Metju untaps, and his upkeep has him scrying 2 as he moves further into the Undercity. He then draws, and plays a Grim Hireling, and passes turn. Arja draws for turn, and exiles his Saga, returning it as a Nezumi Road Captain. He then pays 12 mana for It That Betrays, drawing a card from the Zendikar Resurgent. He then puts to stack Return of the Wild Speaker, but Metju is quick to use Rapid Hybridization on It That Betrays. This has Arja drawing only 3 cards instead. One of them is a Reclamation Sage, and he draws from casting it, and then blows up Sword Coast Sailor on Mathieu's side. Going to combat, Belbe goes at Max, and Arja goes to find a basic, with Max getting taken out once Belbe connects. Arja also becomes the Monarch, drawing a card during his end step. Mathieu goads a creature as he moves further into the Undercity, and then recasts Rilsa Rael, taking the initiative, and making a 4/1 skeleton with Menace. Mathieu then swings the Grim Hireling at Arja, pumping it with Rilsa Rael's +5/+0, First Strike, and Menace. Arja blocks with 2 creatures to stop it, and with nothing else, Mathieu passes. Arja casts Sword of Feast and Famine in his main phase, and gears it up onto Belbe. He then plays a Gilded Lotus, and swings Belbe at Mathieu. Mathieu can't stop it because of pro-black, and after taking the hit, he discards a card, while Arja untaps his lands. This is Arja also gaining the initiative finally, and he goes to find a basic, and then passes, drawing during the end step because he's the Monarch. Mathieu's turn is quick as he draws and goes straight to combat. He swings both the Grim Hireling and the Skeleton at Arja, giving the Hireling the pump. Arja can't block, and before damage, Mathieu casts Tainted Strike to give the Hireling a lethal amount of damage, winning the game, and we move to our summary.
All right, Mac, you won. How do you feel? This is very late.
I mean, Deck did the thing. Skittles killed someone. It was great.
You killed
But specifically Skittles. The rest of it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, everything's moved after that point.
Exactly.
Arja.
I was on a high.
I feel so valid in my death. Oh, Belbe, you drew so many lands. So many unbelievable lands.
You have more turns with Zendikar Resurgent than I think I've ever seen.
Without doing anything about it.
Literally nothing.
I will say, I think the moment I tried so hard, but when you stopped the Gurk's, the whatever that is,
Wild Speaker.
yeah, that was it for me. But good show for Belbe. Otherwise,
Casting Belbe for 14 mana to draw 1 card is...
yeah. If someone can do the math on how much mana I spent on Belbe, don't do the math.
People don't care that much.
I know. Coram was good. I got the swing. Going for Brawn was a much better play than the Anger, but I had no way of knowing that Arja was in play Concordant Crossroads, so here we are. I wish I had a bigger creature, but the Ulma was pretty good by that point, and then Max, actually Matt killed me.
I did, yeah.
He did.
Skittles killed you.
Skittle. That's true.
Yeah. Cruelclaw was clearly the threat from the get-go, but also I didn't kill anybody, so I think I was the real hero.
Yes.
Weasels are truly the best.
Kind Claw.
True.
Friend Claw.
This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.